Merry Christmas, everyone. It's Kirsty, as you know. Today, we're going to jump straight into a profile of the murderer of Xana, Ethan, Madison, and Kaylee from Idaho, from Moscow. I'm going to do a bit of a different format where you're going to see my face. And we're going to sort of try and get straight to the point, because I know it can be really, really hard for some people to understand and follow all the way through. And I can tell that by looking at my analytics, and it drops off quite quickly. So we're going to get to the point. This one is a really hard case because there are so many timestamps, so many different people in different places, so many jacks, so many suspects. But what I'm going to do is look at the descendant, the 7th house cusp, which represents the perpetrator in any criminal chart or any murder chart or missing persons. And we're going to do a profile, physical, psychological, and then cover a few other things like the weapon and why I think it happened and what I think happened. So let's jump into it. So first of all, I'm going to do a shameless plug of one of my notebooks that you can get on Amazon. That's where I put all my notes and my charts in. And there'll be a link down below. And if you like my channel, subscribe it, share it, do all that stuff. I think what's important before we look at any of the astrology is what's the likelihood of what happened? What's the Occam's razor, the most simplest possibility? Looking at all of the charts and also how I feel about what I know about it, to me, the most obvious scenario is that somebody was targeted, and most likely all 4 were targeted. So I believe that there was a connection between all 4 of them that evening somehow. Well, maybe not that evening, but there is a connection, and we will find that out. But why would somebody go into a house, not bother doing anything to somebody on the 1st floor, go to the 2nd floor and the 3rd floor and kill those 4 people? If you're in a psychotic, angry rage with some sort of Rambo knife and you're a stranger, you're probably going to just go in and kill everybody in there, right? And this is an angry person. It's also somebody to me that there's revenge. There's a revenge motive going on. So I personally believe that it's somebody that is in their age bracket, perhaps a little older, not much. I have a feeling that it was Ethan and Xana that actually got caught up into something that then turned into something else. And the charts do show that as well, although there are quite a few charts to look at. I believe that it was somebody that has attended the uni or been to the uni or knows them. So to me, it's not a stranger murder. It's definitely somebody that knows these people. If it was a Ted Bundy style murder, a serial killer, and all those things that we keep hearing, all 6 of those people would have been killed, I can guarantee it. You wouldn't just pick and choose who you're going to kill. So to me, very targeted. And I also believe that this person is in plain sight, just walking around and doing their thing. And I also believe that the police probably do have very strong suspicions on who it is as well. The amount of evidence that's been taken from the house and the amount of photos and etc. You know, there's got to be a lot of evidence there. There's going to be some DNA. There was a handprint. There was a few things. So yeah, that's the basic beginnings of how I feel about it, and that is that it was targeted. It's really hard to know who exactly was targeted, but looking at the map and looking at the charts, it really does appear that Xana and Ethan were most likely the ones that were the initial targets. Now, if you have a think about it and think that if they were all asleep, which I don't really know how anyone knows that, to be honest, but if they were all asleep and the other people in the house were asleep as well, I just think that they were followed. I think that something happened and this person has followed them and possibly got to the home before they were there. I said that in my other video. But I can almost guarantee that it is targeted and, like I said, revenge. Or another word for not just revenge, somebody that was really angry at someone that someone did something probably very minor, and it really, really, really pissed off this person. You don't get that angry and stab 4 people, usually, unless you have a reason. And if not, then if it's a serial killer, why didn't he kill the other 2 people? Why walk past the first floor and go to the other floors? That makes no sense to me. So let's have a look at a couple of the charts. We've got so many times. The girls were at the corner bar from 10 till about 1:30, and then filmed at the grub truck at 1:40. At 1:45 roughly they were all home. Then there was the phone calls from the girls between 2:26 a.m. and 2:52 a.m. I'm not 100% sure that has anything to do with it, to be honest, but we can look in the charts for that as well. And then I believe that the murder happened at 3:45. And if you're in my group, you'll know that when it very first happened, I said I believe that it happened between 3 and 4 by looking at the charts. So 3:45 to me, when I'm rectifying the charts, there's some really pivotal things that stand out. And then obviously that we have the 911 call at 11:58. And 911 calls are always really, really good to have a look at. And obviously I am looking at it. But the other times are more pivotal. The CCTV footage and the specific times that we were given. We have to use all of them, and that's the hard thing about doing astrology like this, is that sometimes you have to look at 10 charts. The thing you'll find is, though, when you look at those 10 charts, there's always something that comes back to something else, that you can minimize it back down to one situation. So let's have a look. Okay, so the first chart that we're going to have a quick look at is 1:30, and that's when the girls left the corner club. So the ascendant, which is the victims, is Virgo. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is 2 people, or a couple in this instance. I see these as being the victims. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 people. So this area here to me is the victims, and here we have the perpetrator, Pisces. As I said, we're going to focus on the profile of the killer. So Pisces on the DC shows the perpetrator at 1:30. Now the ruler of Pisces is Jupiter and Neptune, and that sits just above in the 7th house there of the perpetrator. So to me, that shows me that the person was actually doing something similar or with the girls, or with some of the four. Either went to both places or was at the fraternity party, but we'll get further into that. Neptune and Jupiter both make this trine here to these planets, so there's a distinct connection between the perpetrator and the victims. Now, if we describe a perpetrator being Piscean, you're looking for somebody that possibly has something going on with their feet, maybe shuffles when they walk, something to do with the feet. I don't know, it could be anything, but some type of foot injury possibly, prior surgery, something like that. It also shows me that it's possibly somebody that had been drinking or on drugs, which then leads me to believe that they were actually at one of the places where one of the four people or all of the four people were. So this is 1:45, and now we have the Virgo ascendant still ruled by Mercury at 23 degrees, and Mercury's at 23 degrees as well, so we've got a strong connection between the victim and the victims. So that, that sounds funny, but there's that strong connection there. Then Neptune here, the ruler or secondary ruler of the perpetrator, is at 22 degrees, so very closely related to this Mercury here. Then when we look at the next closest aspect, it goes up to Mars. And as you'll see shortly, Mars is heavily involved in it. And Mars is right on the MC, but out in the public at this time, so visible to other people. Neptune is opposing the ascendant, the victims. So to me, that's somebody that's been with them, had been drinking possibly, and then had an argument, in fact, with all of the victims here in the 3rd house of communication. That really amplifies the fact that there was an argument of sorts. It really actually looks as though there's been an argument or something's happened with Ethan, with the male. Even though I've said that the sun's here, that Mercury is just sort of screaming out to me that there was an argument of some type, especially, like I said, in that 3rd house. There is a possibility that 2 of the victims, the 2 girls, may have actually been collateral damage. Like, the phone calls, I don't know if they're really completely involved in everything, but I have a feeling that there's something in those phone calls that's going to show something. So, did the girls see somebody in the house or know somebody else was in the house and then they just had to be killed? It's a possibility. So in the chart before, Neptune was above the 7th house line there, which shows that this person was a part of whatever was going on at one of the parties, maybe at the club. Now, a little bit later, it sits just below, and when we see that, it's like stalking. It's like, I'm gonna follow you home, and that's what that appears like to me. At 1:45, this person was tailing one of the 4. Now, as far as a profile goes, when we're looking at Pisces, like I mentioned, you've got the feet. There's something going on with the feet. There's also, it can represent somebody that has bowel issues. You can get really specific with astrology, so it's hard to tell unless somebody who knows all of the people that are possible suspects, whether that's the case or not. But Pisces and Neptune do represent issues with the bowel. It also represents clubs and nightclubs as well. So it's an absolute possibility that this person was at the corner bar and then maybe even went to the other party as well. Another thing represented by this Neptune and this Pisces here is enemies. Enemies out in the open. It can also represent somebody that enjoys going fishing. It encompasses hunting as well. So we'll keep that in mind too. I've got a few charts to go through, so I'm trying to just keep it as easy as I can at the moment. This is the chart for the grub truck, and it's not very different really than the other ones, but there's just some slight differences. If you look at the numbers here, we've got 22 degrees. 22 degrees as the perpetrator, the DC, which is exactly conjunct Neptune at 22 degrees. So it's like moving closer towards the end goal of what this person wanted to do. Perhaps this person actually went to the grub truck as well. He might have been at the fraternity party, but went to the grub truck. That's a possibility. But this really does show that it's sort of getting closer to the point of anger, actually, and somebody that's just really starting to unravel. Now, the 8th house cusp, which is the house of death, is Aries, and that's at 17 degrees. That's making an aspect to the moon, and the moon is the co-ruler of the victims. So by this time, by 140, I really truly believe that this person knew that they were going to do this. It was in their mind, that's it, I'm going to do it. And when we look up to Mars in Gemini there at 24 degrees, it's very close to the MC. It's actually forming a yod between Pluto and the victims here. Saturn represents death, and that's in the 5th house. So the 5th house is entertainment and parties and drinking and going out and having fun. So that again amplifies the fact that this person was probably at one of the places, or if not, both of the places. This is 1:56 when the police have managed to sort of triangulate a time. And we have Mars here in the 9th house. The 9th house represents universities. So I really feel by 1:56 this person knows that they're heading to the university to do this. Okay, now this looks very different, this chart. This is 3:45. This is when I believe that something happened. Now we have Aries on the DC representing the perpetrator. The ruler of Aries is Mars, and Mars is sitting right there still in the 9th house. So I believe that he was in the house at that time, 3:45. Aries and Mars also represents a bloody big knife and stabbing. So not only is it showing a possible perpetrator, but the weapon as well. So when we have a look at the map, we're going to really focus on Mars here because they know it was between 3 and 4 o'clock. And any time between 3 and 4 o'clock, Aries is going to be on that descendant. So Mars is really important. Mars is retrograde in Gemini. So it's like we've got somebody that's actually quite an intelligent person, had a plan, had a weapon, possibly had 2 weapons. There may have been 2 knives. The victims now are ruled by Libra, and Libra, the ruler of Libra is Venus. And Venus is a female. And it's moved into the 2nd house. So there's no more communication, there's no more discussions. It's just, I'm going to get this done. So the 2nd house itself represents all sorts of things. Money, which we've got that Venmo thing going on. So there's a money thing happening there. Debts, someone's inner emotions is represented by the 2nd house. It also represents friends, or a friend's home, and the end of life at a friend's home. So it's pretty specific too. Love affairs can be something to do with it as well. On that vein, when we look at the perpetrator being Aries, so Mars being the ruler, and then Venus being the ruler of this one, they are in aspect to each other. When there's an aspect between the victim and the perpetrator, it shows me that they knew each other. When it's Mars and Venus, it's pretty reliable to think that there was some type of relationship with the 2 people. And in the 2nd house, it can show ex-relationships and relationships going bad as well. So just focusing on what the person may look like, or any sort of distinct characteristics with Aries on the descendant. We're looking at somebody who can generally get pretty angry, go from 0 to 100 very quickly. Someone that has some sort of markings or something going on with the middle of their face, so maybe a bigger nose, or something going on with the nose, or a scar or a mole or something around the middle of the face. Relating that to Mars, as you have to, and Gemini, it also shows me that we're looking at a fairly thinnish type of person, someone with sort of gangly arms, someone who's good with their hands, a mechanically minded person. So we have to keep that in mind as well. Now, the reason why I think this is also the time that it happened is we now have Saturn, which is death, in the 4th house of the end of the matter. Pluto is very close to the 4th house cusp, which is the womb and the tomb. The co-ruler, which is the moon, is on the MC there on an angle, but in the 9th house of the university, and in Cancer, which was their home. So this person was in the house at 3:45, or just finishing up doing what they were doing. My feeling is that Ethan and Xana got into some sort of situation where there was some type of jealousy going on around it. Now, of course, I could be wrong, but there is a lot of Venus stuff going on here, and this between Venus and Mars. So there's a relationship of some type that's been brought up or discussed. Something has happened, and I'm just continually drawn to Ethan and Xana. Although I know that most people think it's the other 2 girls, like I said, I could be completely wrong. It could have been, but to me, I don't know, I'm just really feeling that something happened at that frat party, and perhaps them being friends, all friends together. We don't know their relationship. We don't know the 4 of them together. So we don't know who was with who and who did what and who Adam is and who the Jacks are, and, you know, we're all speculating. So the police know, though. That's one thing. We know that the police know. They're going to know every relationship that anybody had with anybody. So I'm seeing that they'll know about this. It's just, unfortunately, I think there's probably too many persons of interest that they've got to rule out. But I really feel that they need to go back to the most obvious, like I said. So looking at those charts, albeit briefly, we've got a lot of Pisces and Aries and Mars. So if we're going to do a profile of a person with those signs in particular, we've got somebody that has possibly, like I said, something going on with their feet, a foot shuffler, someone who walks differently, possible surgeries in the feet, even big feet, something like that. You know, there's something going on with the feet. Smaller teeth, that's something that Pisces represents. You can tell a Pisces a mile away or a Pisces rising when they have really quite small teeth. So small teeth, something to do with the feet. Then when we look at Aries and then the Mars in Gemini, like I said, we've got someone that's a bit of a lone wolf, somebody that's pretty angry or can get angry, like I said, from, 0 to 100 in the flip of a switch, and somebody who enjoys antagonizing other people as well. With Aries, the head is the rulership in terms of astrology. Aries is the head, so there's definitely, I feel, something going on with the head. I think the person that did this probably had some type of wound or maybe a cut, possibly a cut themselves, or a defense wound on their head or face, or around here, around the middle of their face. Like I said as well, though, there could be a mole, it could be just a distinctive nose. But yeah, somebody that's got pretty long arms and long gangly arms, a thinner person, and yeah, somebody that just may not be pleasant to be around all the time. A jealous person. The Neptune in it and Pisces represented to me, apart from the feet and the possible stomach issues, is somebody that likes to drink, even an alcoholic or a drug addiction. Heroin actually is represented very specifically by Pisces. I don't know what the drug situation is there, but that is a possibility as well. So Aries is also somebody that's relatively young. And I really feel as though, like I said before, it's the same type of age bracket, if not the same age as all of the victims. In fact, just thinking about that, vomiting. So we've got Pisces and Jupiter and everything, which is the guts, but then Aries, which is adrenaline. When you do something like stabbing 4 people to death, the adrenaline would be absolutely heightened, which could then make someone vomit. I'd be interested to know if there was a pile of vomit around the house. There'd be DNA there, that's for sure. Anyway, let's have a look at the map. Pisces and then the Jupiter represents somebody that is a hunter. So as we've all thought that anyway, that is in the chart as well. Somebody that's previously hunted or hunted all of their lives. So I actually believe that this weapon was something that they owned and had owned for a long time, if it's not 2 weapons, like I said. Absolutely, I have no doubt about it that it was a really big, horrible knife, and that this person was extremely angry at a situation that had occurred during the night. And just from looking at all of the charts, even though there's so many and it's really hard to gauge, I really feel as though this person has attended both places, the corner bar, the grub truck, the fraternity party. They've been around. So I believe that's who we're looking for. Now, I'm a little bit, my brain's not working the way that it would normally, of course, after everything that's happened, but I think it's probably good to keep it a little simple at this point in time. But what we're going to have a look at now is the map, and we're going to look at where Mars goes, because I believe Mars not only may show us where the perpetrator was or lives or has come from or works or something like that, but also maybe where the weapon is. My feeling from looking at the chart and also just my own intuition tells me that he's actually taken the weapon back home and wants to keep it. But in the possibility and that he has dumped it somewhere, we're going to have a look at the map and see where that could be. And I've got a few little spots. And when we look at the map, you're going to see some places that have popped up in other YouTube videos and some places of interest, which has interested me greatly because I was watching something just last night and saw a road that I'd mapped previously where the Mars line went through. So I'm interested in that as well. So let's have a little look at the map. So there's the house that the murder occurred in, the Jupiter and Neptune perpetrator lines, and the Saturn line there as well. But so here's the fraternity, but this one here, Alpha Gamma Delta, the perpetrator line goes straight through there. Now I haven't seen really anything mentioned about that particular one, but that is of interest to me. But what we're going to have a look at here is this Mars line. So the Mars line goes straight through next door here. It goes through this area on Linda Lane. So I believe that that is an important area. Blake Ave there. We've got some bushland as well. I'd be looking all through this bushland here for the weapon. Then another point of interest is here on Lauder Ave, around this area. And then out onto Main Street or Highway 95, and keeps going. Actually, I've got a few different points. Lynn Street, Blaine Street, and out to this parkland area. So this line is super important. The circles are the perimeter, the diameter, the mileage that I've used from the charts. So obviously these points here are important as well. I should have put a circle there, right here. So if we zoom in, who was in this place here? What's going on this road here? Linda Lane, Blake Ave. Who lives all along here? In these bushes, bushland here, bushes there. If you're looking directionally like that, then I believe that the person either lives along this line or left, possibly, I don't know how you would go, Taylor Ave, went down these streets, I'm not sure, and ended up on Main Street or on that Route 95. other YouTubers or people that are into crime and know all the details will know a lot more than me about these particular areas, but 100% I would be looking all along this line here. And there will be a link below as well, so you can have a look at it and match it with anything that you might find. Obviously these other lines are important as well, but yeah, as I said, importantly, Alpha, Gamma, Delta. Did the person attend that place? I don't know a lot about American universities or these types of things, so it's hard for me to say. But not only that, but the Sigma Pi, I think it's the Sigma Pi, is between the Saturn line and the perpetrator lines as well. So this area here is also really important. I think this is where something occurred, something happened around here, either in there, or someone came from there and went to there, and then possibly even, like I said, went up to the grub truck and then back down again. But that Mars line, again, really important. So just a quick summarization on Pisces and Aries being so prominent in all of the charts on the descendant, which is the perpetrator. We're reiterating and putting together those things, the description of a person, and that person, in my perspective, is impulsive, a loner, definitely a hunter, has some sort of something around the nose or cheeks area, a mole or disfiguration or scar, possibly even a scar or something in the hairline, or something along the hairline. And then there's the pretty distinctive sort of the feet, like a different walk, a shuffle, or literally operations or surgeries on the feet. Somebody that's got long, sort of thin arms, a dexterous person, somebody that can work with their hands, mechanical sort of aptitude, but somebody that can go from zero to 100 in a split second, and most people would know it. This is not going to be some timid person that you go, oh, I would never have imagined. It's going to be someone that you're like, yeah, that dude was a psycho. So, yeah, there's some distinctiveness. That he's intelligent, has been to university, probably dropped out or left, didn't think he was good enough. All the traits of a psychopath. We can go on for hours about that stuff, but definitely targeted, I believe, to one of the couples, or something happened with. They keep falling out of my head, the names. There's too much to remember. Xana. I feel like it was something to do with some sort of communication or argument about her, to do with her. Ethan got involved in it. The girls somehow were almost collateral. But then there's also that feeling of a real connection of all of them in some strange regard. But I'm going towards Xana and Ethan, and a situation that occurred at the university or at all three places. So yeah, Aries, Pisces, that's the sort of description. Somebody that likely runs on adrenaline, moves fast, constantly on the go, impulsive, impetuous, all those sorts of things. But then depressed as well. The person that doesn't really talk, but when they talk, they go off and they start, carrying on, that type of person. I can see him in my head, actually. You've got to put some Gemini factors in there as well. So there's two sides of this person. And, some people might say, oh, I'm so surprised that it was actually him. But then a lot of people will figure out and get pretty quickly that, it's obvious that it was this person. I don't know. Allegedly. There's also a possibility that the person might have a speech impediment. I forgot to mention that. So if you enjoyed that and liked the new format of me talking most of the way through it and quickly looking at the charts, hit the like, the subscribe, do all those things that everyone tells you to do so I can get this out there a little bit more. Bye everyone. Take care.